can't get both of us. You're going to have to scooch over here.
Yeah, it's kind of hard doing it standing up.
So, all right. So we're live. We're here to talk about DMDD. We want to say Happy Mother's Day to everybody. We're still trying to figure out this camera stuff, so we apologize. We haven't been doing this very long, but we have learned. We have been on a trek with DMDD for quite a while, and we've learned a lot, and we want to share some of our journey with you. And we understand that you've gone through a lot as a DMDD parent, and we know that any special needs parent is really put in some very stressful situations. So I think some people want to know what it's okay to be rowdy.
Okay.
Where did that come from?
So that came from that it is okay to be expressive. It is okay to use your words. It is okay to say that you need help, to speak out. And with with DMDD, it is, again, all of this, my husband and I, we are parents that we had to go out on our own and research DMDD, because when our son received his diagnosis, it was, here you go, I'm going to give you a piece of paper that has this classification now, and I'm not giving you any kind of resources. I'm not telling you where you need to go. Here you go. So we are researching parents. We are not medical professionals, and we do not practice law. We are parents that have tried time after time different therapies, different medications, and nothing seemed to work.
And I think part of that being rowdy comes from, our kids, DMDD kids can be a little rowdy, downright, full on rage. So, as we're taught with DMDD, that we can't, antagonize that child when they're in the DMDD rage. We can't, the best thing that we can do is to say, okay, I'm going to let you do your rage, and I'm not going to try to intervene. And at that very first point, when the child is beginning into that rage stage, you should be able to recognize and that, hey, that's a trigger of the parent, I need to back away. It's okay to let him do his thing right now to keep me and the rest of my family safe, because if I get in his space at that point in time, I'm very likely to get hurt. And it's okay to let them be rowdy, it's okay. And then from a parent side, as you start going to meet with the educators and you start bringing up the information about DMDD, they don't really know what's going on. There's a lot of educators that have no experience, and you have to realize that, when educators are going through school, they're not getting a whole lot of the training and a lot of the information. And there's teachers out there that haven't received any information about what even DMDD is or to recognize it, but yet, there's a growing number of students and children being diagnosed with DMDD. And so as a parent, sometimes you have to be a little rowdy with those educators and those people and say, okay, I know my rights, I know what you're supposed to be doing right now, and I know that this is a manifestation of his diagnosis or her diagnosis, and I can bring a doctor in or a counselor and a therapist and can help you recognize that. And then we also have resources that we recommend that that you buy for for the educators that will help you. One of the greatest books out there, I think, for educators, and we bought a whole set of that for our IEP team so that they could read it and understand what our son's issues was. And what was the name of that book?
It's in your room.
Poppy and the Overactive Amygdala, I think is the name of it. Poppy and the Overactive Amygdala. And
so with that, to explain it, I like to reference things to other things so it can kind of make a little more sense. So with a child that is in a DMDD rage, it is the same exact thing as if your child was having an epileptic seizure, because what is going on, it is being triggered the front part of their brain, the amygdala,
in the back.
and back here. So what is happening when a child is in one of these episodes, they are having a seizure of emotions. So just like if you're familiar with someone that has seizures, we are all told to, yes, we clear the area. And with a child that has DMDD, yes, you clear the area. You make sure that the area is safe. And also, you're not supposed to interact. So if someone is having a seizure, you're not supposed to stop them from having the seizure. You're not supposed to be like stopping them from swallowing their tongue or things like that. You're not supposed to do that. So yes, in that situation when a child is having a DMDD episode, sometimes they may have someone that they have a rapport with, that even in all of that, they're still kind of there. But in most cases, you can't approach them like that. So in these situations, when these kids are in full-on rage, you have a amount of adults that are coming in at, oh, he's being aggressive, he's being this. So now we have people coming this way, and this way, and this way. And now this child is cornered. And
that increases the fight or flight mode astronomically, logarithmically by the number of people who are there. It's a scientific proven fact that DMDD children do not recognize a non-emotional face. A non-emotional face to them, a face not showing emotion, to a DMDD child, they recognize that as an aggressive. I actually see a neutral face as an aggressive act, and that stimulates their amygdala even more. So you really want to back away, it's almost like coming upon a wild animal. You want to hunker down, make yourself appear short. You do not want to be threatening to the child. You want to put your hands out forward and back away and allow them to do their rage. They will get over their rage sooner if you are not intervening. If you're not trying to de-escalate and yell at them. Once the threat, so what's happening in these seizures, they want to get away from whatever threat there is perceived in front of them. And if that's you preventing them from having their electronics, if that's you preventing them from having whatever thing that they want to do right then or letting them do that, then you are antagonistic to that situation, and you really should remove yourself and allow the child to self-regulate and come on down to their own. But that's not, I understand that's not the thing that is easiest to do. We all want to go de-escalate the situation. We want to go into the situation and put ourselves in harm's way. So you have to be very careful about that. You don't want to be in harm's way yourself during this de-escalation process. What do you have?
yes. So in a child with DMDD, it looks different. And being a parent of a child with a special needs, with each child different, it looks different in every child. And some children with DMDD, it can be extreme areas of where they are super emotional, and with them just being emotional, they're letting out that frustration in different ways. They may scream, they may kick, they may do different things, and then in some kids they can have different levels of just anger and frustration, and it could just be from anything.
That's what DMDD is. It's chronic irritability, where you're just chronically irritable.
Yeah, and it's one of those kind of situations that people that have, question as to how we handle the situations, or like, how weren't we proactive in these situations. We don't have that time. Us becoming knowledgeable as to what we can and can't do in these situations are what help us. But these situations can go from, I'm talking about my Pokemon card, to now I'm chunking the book across the table. Like, that's how quick it can go. It's not I see his body language, I see him getting frustrated. It can go, still have a smile on my face, and then it that quick. So you don't always have time to react quickly in these situations. You just have to learn how to just be on your toes. And it's not a matter of, you get stuff when you have, especially when you have a child with any kind of special need. People that are looking in on the situation, they take it as if you're allowing that child to have too much freedom in the home. And when your child is having a chemical imbalance, there isn't any, I'm going to punish this out of them, or I'm going to strip them of everything to make them this way. And that is not the case. And
that's what's led us to, finding the Matthews Protocol. So we found the Matthews Protocol by accident. We had a really good friend mention it to us. We had not even heard of it. Again, we received a diagnosis with no guidance, no information. The doctors didn't say, hey, you need to do this or that. So we just started researching and finding, and we found the Matthews Protocol. And, we're big proponents of the Matthews Protocol. He had been on antipsychotics and a number of other, stimulants. And once you get into this, you understand the brain chemistry, that most stimulants are stimulating the entire brain. So, ADHD meds, a lot of time for kids, are stimulants. And so when you take those stimulants, it's stimulating the entire brain, which includes the amygdala and the limbic system. So, that's where that fight or flight is coming from. So if it's already overstimulated just by the natural part of the brain that it is for this child, who's already got some kind of overstimulation going on with the amygdala, and now the amygdala is being stimulated with the other parts of the brain, and it's getting an overstimulation, and you will see the rages will increase a lot of times. We saw a natural progression over the nearly 5 years. It was at first it was laying down on the ground, kicking, screaming, throwing fits, throwing toys across the room, to full on. The last progression was, I'm going to attack you and I'm going to run up on you to get you out of my space. So it became more and more aggressive as it went on. It started off, like I said, you would almost say maybe it was a tantrum, but you don't want to call it a tantrum because, it was an emotional seizure at first, and it kept going and going, and, over the course of almost 5 years, it progressed to the point to where it was a full-on rage, and holes were being punched in walls, and people were being attacked, and, we had a case opened on us with Child Protective Services, and a full-on attack onto the Child Protective Services. So we've been through the gamut of this, him attacking the Child Protective Services worker, assault and battery of a police officer. He's 10 years old when he's doing these things. And we're not doing that to point out what he did. We're just saying, hey, we've been on this journey, and some of your stuff may be worse than ours and what you're going through, but we're all going through it together. And you know, we're here for you, and we're here to talk about what we learned. And so through the Matthews protocol, we found a doctor. So you want to talk about?
So we found a doctor, and what was actually interesting is that this particular doctor, we had worked with her in the past, and when we worked with her in the past, it was just more of like behavior type therapy, and the behaviors weren't as extensive as they are now. And you know, when the name came across, she was like, oh yeah, like I remember. And then like some of the behaviors, they were kind of like hit and miss, because she's like, oh, like, okay, now that they're escalated. And we did, and we sat there and we told him that we've tried numerous medications, and the numerous medications we've tried, they've caused, you know, they basically fuel the behaviors. There were some that if he was sad, particular medicines made him really, really sad. And if he was angry, the medicine made him super angry.
Like Hulk rage angry.
So yeah, it was a lot. And we explained to her, we were like, hey, even where one of his episodes were so bad that his rage was like super high, as we tried to go to get him inpatient services, and in the process of us transporting him there, like his behaviors basically calmed down. But when it was time to go, something triggered, and then there at the hospital, they got to see these behaviors that we were talking about. And we went through all of that, and they did not want to try it. And the medicines that they were giving him, we were on like 3 different strengths of Seroquel. They tried numerous antidepressants. It was antipsychotics, Abilify, Vyvanse, which was absolutely horrible. So when we went to this doctor and told her that we tried all these medications, and she was like, wow, you guys really have tried a lot of medications. And then that's when she told us about a test called GeneSight. So in between us getting his like cultures for the GeneSight testing, my husband started researching on this protocol. Again, it was just one of those things that just kind of fell in our lap, because all we had was DMDD. That's all we had. So we are searching everywhere. We're looking for books. We're online here. We're online there. And that was one of the things that fell into our lap. So my husband started researching, and he started sending different links. So the next appointment that we had with Dr. Don would be the appointment for us to talk about his medications that were on this test. And when we got the results back, we did our research on it, and a lot of the medications that were in the green, which would work better with his body and his body's anatomy, some of the meds that were on this protocol were on there, and we simply followed up with reliable sources and say, hey, this could be something that could work for him. We've tried all these medications. These are all the side effects we have with these medications. We want you to try this protocol. And she was just like, hey, she read over all the stuff, and she was like, all right, like, we're going to give this a go. And she actually went through all of it. She read it. And with that, it's not just one of those medications that you just take and then that's over with. Like, it's a tier system.
Yeah. So yeah, you have to titrate up to therapeutic levels. And this, you know, your fingers are on your camera. So, so yeah, it was a titration. You have to titrate up on the medicine, and you start out at lower levels. It's an anti-epileptic medicine, and so you have to start out at low levels and work your way up on it. And so you have to slowly move it up. Now, what they recommend is starting at a certain level and then increasing it by 75 milligrams per week, up to 150 milligrams every 2 weeks. We had to do it a little bit differently because with our insurance and things like that, we could only meet with our psychiatrist once a month for meds. And so with that, we met every month, and we would increase it by about 300 milligrams a month, which was 150 every 2 weeks. So our steps were further out, but they were big steps when we took the steps as we were titrating up. And so when you talk about titrating up, you get to a therapeutic level somewhere around 60 milligrams per kilogram. And this is, and again, I'm not a doctor. I'm telling you what the studies from Dr. Matthews has done, and that's how he created this protocol. And so you're looking for trough levels in the 28 micrograms per deciliter to 30 micrograms per deciliter. So you're looking for at trough levels, which is 12 hours after you've taken the last dose, and that's a trough level. That is the lowest point that the medicine would be in your blood. So that's part of the titration up, and then so that's what that anti-epileptic medicine does is it stops the amygdala from being overstimulated, and once that happens, then you can see that it'll slow down, and then we follow up with the frontal lobe stimulant, and that is.
And the frontal lobe stimulant that we're using is called amantadine, and he's receiving that twice a day. He receives, 200 milligrams of that in the morning and then 100 in the afternoon. And it seems to help. Like, it channels a lot of like the frustration, and in certain situations that we knew would like be a triggering situation, it's like we kind of like step back and just see, and it has been night and day. Like, for anybody that's really truly been there through the journey, and they get to, from when it was here to now just being here, it's night and day. He is able to express emotions like verbally versus all the other things that come with the frustration that comes like with the hitting and the kicking and the screaming and things of that nature. But it's nice to hear from him. And I know in so many situations, a lot of people like to say that, oh, are the parents really doing this for them, or are they really doing it for the child? Is it that the child's behavior is too much for them to handle, so they have to go this rate to make their child, I don't know what you say, like, to be able to conform, or things of that nature. But to hear out of our child's mouth that he is happy and he is a good person, and just his level of self-worth has increased. And it is very interesting that we can have a morning where just something as simple as waking up doesn't become a trigger. And it has been a game changer where he is able to just laugh. We haven't, and giggle and choke.
And be a kid, and he's not in that state of constant irritability. And so yeah, we've seen a big difference, and I'm telling you that he had
So
Nicholas.
Oh, my legs are just hurting.
So,
I've been standing up for a half hour.
so he's having to stand up for.
we get a lot of bluntness. He's standing up. He's being our camera production crew because somebody didn't test for the live.
I was just trying to reach the ottoman.
So I'm gonna throw that out there.
Yeah, Rowdy Dad didn't didn't check it out.
Even though I mentioned that, but
Hey, JJ, can you grab the ottoman?
Yeah, if you turn it towards Mom,
yeah.
Okay.
so she can talk.
All right, so yeah, and
You didn't have to do that.
yeah, so as a parent of a child with special needs, with DMDD, this is still a fairly new diagnosis. So what we're seeing, the schools, in most cases, the way when it comes to receiving services for your child at school, if the diagnosis does not fall under a category, then they'll say that your child cannot qualify for services. And we literally had a 6-month battle with the school district just because we were not trying to say that we want him to receive services under a particular disability. We want you to acknowledge that he has medical diagnoses. So if there is a situation that causes a certain behavior, for you to note that this behavior could possibly be, or in fact, a manifestation of his diagnosis, versus saying, oh, he ran, he did this, he did this, he did that, and not tying it back to his medical diagnosis. And
yeah, the school wanted to say he was just a delinquent child.
What's a delinquent?
A child who doesn't follow or obey rules.
Oh.
And so yeah, he was, the school wanted to put a label on there. And so for us, Nicholas had a very early diagnosis that we later found was not true. It was just a misdiagnosis. So Nicholas had been diagnosed as ASD. And so we had been, for the longest, battling and treating that, but just kept saying to ourselves that this isn't him, there's something else going on, we understood the ASD symptoms, and he does have ASD symptoms, but they're predicated by other diagnoses that he has that are similar to. Part of that is the DMDD and other diagnoses that he has. And we won't go into all of that because that's his business, but we're really here to talk about the DMDD. And so with the DMDD, we were just, there's something else going on. You're just not seeing it. What's going on, when it takes 2 security guards and 4 nurses to hold your child down and strap him into a hospital bed, when there have been, they're putting straps on him and holding him down into a hospital bed, or they removed the whole bed because he was hurting himself and others, and he just had a mattress on the floor in the hospital because he was raging so much. So these things, there was something else going on, and we were trying to find help and seek help, and we got this diagnosis that they didn't even say, hey, you have a diagnosis of DMDD. They said, here's his paperwork, and gave us his paperwork, and we didn't look at it right away because, it said ASD, it said this, it said that, and then down further, there was a diagnosis of DMDD. It was like, what is that? So Jamaica asked me, and I asked her, and we didn't know, and so we started doing some research, and man, it was like, I watched some videos from Dr. Fisher in Austin, who has already passed away, but I watched some of his videos on Google. I was like, oh my gosh, Jamaica, you have to watch these with me. These explain it. And that's how we got to where we are now with this understanding.
Change the color.
And how much of a life changer has the diagnosis been for us? How long have we gone without an episode?
9 weeks.
No way, that's impossible.
Have you put it on this?
I don't know. I gotta change the color to make it look more dramatic. Say it again.
9 weeks.
It's been 9 weeks without.
9 weeks. 9 weeks with me not having to
That's beautiful.
call my principal or call my lead teacher on my way to work, that I'm having to turn around to go to the hospital or to go to Parkside. 9 weeks of
Wait, ain't that
no
the same thing?
local PD being called. 9 weeks of no holes in the wall. 9 weeks of understanding and smiling and laughing and joking. 9 weeks of a happy child, a child that we knew was always there. We've always known that he was funny and creative and all of these things, but it was literally like our child was trapped in like the eye of a storm, a hurricane, a tornado. He was right in the middle. And we knew he was there, and everything about him was still there, but then it was all the emotions and the rage and the frustration, and all of that was causing this whirlwind, and we couldn't get in to get him. And now that he's like he's so grounded, like, the storm is over with, it's clear. Yes, we still have pieces that we have to go pick up after this storm, and it's really interesting, like, we were in there. We were in the middle of this storm trying to get him. So we were getting hit with the flying debris. We were getting hurt.
Cursed out.
Oh yeah, we were getting the curse words. We were getting called horrible things because we were caught in the middle of this storm. And now it's like we're coming out of the storm, and now it's kind of like, oh, well, you guys did the hard part. Like, you guys did this, and now we're going to go out and pick all the little twigs up off the ground now. Or we're going to go and we're going to use a little paintbrush to paint the side of your house. Like, that kind of stuff, where when we were in the middle of this storm, there was like little to nobody there saying, hey, let me come and do this, let me come and do that.
I was trying to put it back on.
And it was very interesting to me now that me as mom, I'm getting a lot of backlash from certain people about certain things, and it's crazy to me because I remember there were, for 2.5 week period, Dad and I were taking turns sitting at the hospital. Someone had to be with him 24/7 because he was in the hospital, but he was not admitted to the hospital. He was in the pediatric ER. So we couldn't leave and go to work and come back, and there was going to be a nurse or something watching us. Yes, there was a patient companion in the room, but because of his age, one of us always had to be there. So it was long nights and long days. It was sometimes that one of us just had enough time to go home and bathe and like freshen up and then come back with snacks for the next one, and then we swapped out, or to go home and take a power nap and then come right back. And that was our life for 2.5 weeks. And then it was telling the twins, okay, pack a bag because you have to go to such and such house, or things like that. And it was very crazy, and it was scary for the twins for a while too. Like, they didn't know what was going on. They were scared, they were afraid, they had all these different emotions, they didn't know what was going on. To now, us at 9 weeks, where they're playing the games together, they're sharing, they're laughing, they're joking. It is,
except Pablo.
it is peace. It is nice to see the kids. Yes, they're siblings and they're still kind of bigger, because what siblings don't? Like, if your kids are engaging with each other daily, there's gonna be some kind of pullback. But in our case, everything was a pullback. It was, if you had my controller, or if the TV, like, it was just all kinds of stuff.
Was too loud,
or too bright, or it was just different things that trigger different emotions. To now, we have it where it's like our kids are like problem solving with each other. If it's getting too loud, it's, now I don't hear the game at all. Now the game's been turned off. Not because the twins turned it off, because Nicholas knew that it was going to cause a triggering situation. So he turns off the game. And what are you doing now?
But they do get mad.
And yeah, they're gonna get upset because they wanted to play the game. However, and in our home, we definitely encourage brain breaks or alone times. We do not want anyone to see their room as a form of punishment. If it's too much for me, I will go take a brain break. And nobody's following in behind me. Nobody's asking me a billion questions. Why? Because we know mental health is real, and we know it is very important. If it's 2 minutes to ourselves, we want the kids to know that too, that if you're taking a break, it is not a time out. You are not in trouble. You are collecting yourself so you can come back and handle that situation better.
And one of the things I want to talk about in regards to the timeouts is that you don't want to be using that as a punishment. I think a more positive thing is, hey, can you take a brain break, or do you need to take a brain break? And I think make that an offer at first, and then you can say, no, I really think you need to take a brain break. Why don't you just take a 5-minute break?
I just need a heart.
And so when you take that brain break, it gives the child some time to regroup and come back. We're not saying that Nicholas doesn't have frustrating situations. We're finding that he's able to find coping mechanisms, and he's more cooperative with coping mechanisms that we provide him, such as taking a brain break, or we'll say something to distract him from that situation. We'll talk to him about his videos that he makes, or get him to play with Pumpkin a little bit, or say, hey, you want to go outside, or just trying to distract him from that situation to not allow it to escalate. But we're seeing less and less of that even at this point. So we're really seeing a lot of improvement. We contribute a lot of that to all of it, actually, to finding the Matthews Protocol. And if you have any questions about the Matthews Protocol, we're willing to answer any of those questions. You can ask away. We've got a few minutes left here, and if you have any questions, send us those questions, and we'll see what we can do to see about answering them right now. So do we have any questions popping up or anything? Okay, well, it's one of the things that's really helped us is to, continue on this path with what we're doing. We're not trying to become, Facebook famous, TikTok famous, any of that stuff. We're doing this to help people. We were on the phone yesterday with a colleague or a friend for about, a couple hours, just talking to them. And their doctor had recently recommended some of the same drugs that are used in the Matthews protocol. Right after Jamaica had shared with her how the Matthews protocol has been so great for us and works so well. Our child is very creative, very intelligent, and a very kind, loving child. And you can see that now. That side of him is not the crabby, cranky child that he was, in escalating to violence. He's not that same child. He's the child that we knew was inside of him. So yes. So yeah, getting back to it's okay to be rowdy. It's okay to be rowdy. Let's get that out there. It's normalizing having these different diagnoses, and it's okay to have these diagnoses that can. But you got to find the thing that works. We talk about the Matthews protocol. There's people who have tried the Matthews protocol and it didn't work for them. What we know about the brain chemistry right now is, but there's a lot of overwhelming evidence, study after study after study that shows that the Matthews protocol has worked for so many children.
All right, and with that being said, again, if anyone has any questions, feel free to contact one of us about any questions you may have. And again, it is okay. Us as special need parents, someone decided this probably do not have a child with special needs, decided that we have to be these saints. We have to be these people that know everything. And if we're tired, if we're tired, if we're frustrated, if we need help, that's against the rules. We're not allowed to do that. And in so many cases, so many parents will not reach out to other parents that may be going through the similar things that they are going through, or even trying to just reach out in general, because if they reach out, if they ask questions, if they show a sign of weakness, then that is going to fall back onto their parenting. So it is okay to ask for help. It is okay to be tired. It is okay to be frustrating. It's okay to be rowdy.
All right, thanks a lot, everybody. Peace out. We're going to hit the like button. Send us some hearts. Send us some love. Face the camera towards me. And we'll be back on Wednesday with another live feed. So Wednesdays and Sundays, and Wednesday nights will only be a 30-minute feed. Sundays will be an hour-long feed. That's how we're going to plan this out.
So, you are welcome.
So if there's anything that we can help you with, give us a shout out. And again, happy Mother's Day.
All right. Good night.
Good night.